Well, welcome to Wealth Talks, where we talk about solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life. John, it's good to be back here in the studio with you today.
Yes, good morning.
We got a great guest today.
That's right.
We got your mom, Michelle. Thank you for being with us today, because we're going to be talking about some fun things, and it's always great to have you to talk with.
Well, I like to talk with you guys too. And so what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we like to talk about money and wealth and other things that create that create good things in life.
Yeah, good.
And, a lot of people confuse the fact that wealth is just how much money you've got. And, that's not true, because all of us are different. Not one of us are exactly the same. And yes, the Constitution says that we were created equal. That doesn't mean we're all identical. I mean, who wants to go and watch a basketball game played between two identically matched teams?
It would be pretty boring.
There would be no scores. There would be no points. I mean, they would just cancel each other out.
Yeah, that's really true. And Tom, you mentioned that wealth is more than money. And I've seen this quote recently that says, some people are so poor, all they have is money. And, when you think about that, think about the people that are, some people come to mind that are very wealthy or have been wealthy, such as Howard Hughes. I mean, he had a lot of money, but he didn't have relationships. He didn't have his health. Mm-hmm. In fact, he didn't have his sanity. And how much could he really enjoy that money? How much good could he do with his money? Well, he was limited because of the lack of other kinds of wealth in his life.
He was so unrecognizable at his death that they had to do an autopsy to make sure it was him he died, because that's how poor his relationships had become.
Wow.
Yeah. Just completely lack of real wealth.
Yeah.
Lots of money, but no wealth.
Right.
That's sad, and yet he accomplished some amazing things in his life too. So somewhere there was a paradigm shift, or he didn't shift his paradigm.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with values. That's what we talk about here at Life Benefits. This is a value-based system. Wealth is based on your values. And what he valued, he got.
Yeah, and John, I'm really glad you mentioned that about at one time he had some other type of wealth so that he could create wealth, because sometimes people think that they haven't had the kind of wealth they want, and they can also make that transition to have greater wealth, better kinds of wealth at any time. Just like Howard Hughes had that shift to go the bad way, you can also have a shift and do better than you have been doing.
Yeah, and even then, with his money, he was able to really make Las Vegas a city of entertainment instead of run by the mobs, because he bought out a lot of the mobs that were running Las Vegas. So he had some things, and he did some fantastic things in medicine and aviation. But how much more could he have done? That's with that wealth if he had some other values as well.
And sometimes people say, well, I've got more money than what I need. And I just wonder, what does that mean? More money than you need? Couldn't you take that money and do more good? And I just think, well, if you can do more good, you need more money.
I was talking to a gentleman just yesterday on the phone, and I called him, and he had read your book, Prescription for Wealth. And he was saying, I got a couple good ideas for it, but I'm really set. I'm happy with where I am. I'm semi-retired. I work just one day every week. And he said, I'm investing in real estate. I really don't want to do anything else. I'm happy with where I am. I don't see how I can make any more money. And it just made me do a double take, because where is his vision for the future if it's just doing more of what he's already doing? And there's nothing wrong with doing more of what you're already doing, but it's always a good idea to be on the lookout for ways and avenues that you can increase everything that you're doing exponentially, instead of just working day to day linearly at it.
And not just today. We're talking about, what about the future? Because just the other day, yesterday, someone called and said, we really don't want to do this because we're married, we don't have any kids, and we don't see any need for creating a legacy. Very, very narrow-minded people. Their values are very self-centered. And there's a lot of people like that. And, I'm not here to point fingers at people, but their vision, like you said, John, is just short. I mean, we're here not just to enjoy life and burn the wick and be gone. We're here to make this world a better place for the next generation. And that's what I get so excited about, the tool that we're using in helping people create more monetary money, if you want to say more monetary wealth, because it does perpetuate what you can do even after you're gone.
Right. And something that people often confuse when they're talking about their money is they think that numbers and money are the same thing. And so they just look at it as a numbers game. And numbers are extremely helpful in evaluating money, but it's not, they're not equal to each other.
Because, and you love numbers.
Right.
And you love them for what reason?
Yeah, because they're always accurate.
They're always the same.
Count on them.
They're always the same, and money is not that way.
Right, and yet there are so many ways that they can be applied to different solutions and things like that. So in your book, Winning Your Financial Game, you talk about, I think it's how 7 times 3 is always 21.
Yes.
That's a numerical fact. But a dollar back in 1913 is not worth what a dollar is today. And that's a prime example of one way in which money is not equivalent to numbers.
Yeah, it's still called a dollar, but it doesn't buy the same amount of goods that a dollar bought back then.
That's right.
Yeah.
This reminds me, I don't know if this was a joke or not, but when the government took over most of the stock of GM, the
that
guys
sounds
from
like a joke.
They came to Detroit from Washington, and they said, "We want you to build a car that's this size, this diameter. It's going to be electric. It's got to get this many miles per gallon." And the physicist at General Motors said, "This can't be done. It's against the law of physics." And someone piped up from Washington and said, "Did you say a law? We can change that law." And that's what we do in Washington. Yeah. But there are some laws you can't change, even though, on the SAT test now to get into college, they rounded pi down to 3.21 instead of 3 point whatever it is, 1 point, I can't even remember.
3.14 instead of that be the full.
Right. Yeah. That's wrong. And it makes a difference, but because numbers are precise. But money is not precise. Money is not always accurate. Good example of that is the price of gold. As we're talking today, gold's trading somewhere around $1,500 an ounce. When I was a kid, it was $32 an ounce fixed by the administration. Couldn't go higher than that, couldn't go lower than that. And we go clear back to Roman times, and an ounce of gold would buy a very fine suit of clothing for a man. Okay. And guess what? An ounce of gold will buy today.
Fine suit of clothing for a man.
Yes. But when our money was backed to a fixed commodity like that, then it was more precise like numbers are. But it isn't today. Money today is what?
A derivative of debt.
And what does that mean?
Well, a derivative is kind of like, you have apples, and a derivative of apples is apple juice.
That's right.
And today, it's not only our money that is a derivative of debt, but everything in the financial arena, you're dealing with so many derivatives. In fact, it's one of the reasons that it makes the stock market today so unstable, is because there's derivatives of derivatives of derivatives. And if the foundation of those changes, then those derivatives come crashing down.
And no one has any logical reason why their derivative of the derivative of the derivative crashed, because they don't know what it was based on.
Right. And isn't that part of the scheme, probably, to disguise what's happening? Well, I guess we could get into conspiracy, but it just kind of makes sense. There is a conspiracy. Robert Kiyosaki says every Sunday afternoon when football's playing, there's this conspiracy in each locker room at halftime.
That's right.
Everyone is trying to conspire how to win financially. And yet that often makes the market very volatile, like we just saw this last Monday, Black Monday in China. Things happen. And it's not necessarily why we think it happens. It happens because people behind that market no longer have a faith and belief in it. And when that happens, they're going to get out of it. And when they get out of it, things change. And other people are going to get into it because they see an opportunity when other people don't. And that's what's happening, what happens in the market. But going back to what you were talking about, and money and numbers not being the same, and we talked about people are not the same either. I can never be a neurosurgeon, regardless of how much I would like to be one. I was a great chiropractor at one time, but a neurosurgeon, I can't do it because I have a familiar tremor. There's no way I could get in there and work on those delicate nerves in surgery. I would just manipulate. I mean, I would just destroy someone's brain or nerve roots as I was working on it. So even though I might get the knowledge and the know-how, I could never develop the skill.
Even the desire there.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So it's the same thing with money. Okay? Everybody's money is different. So, John, if you take a loan, and we're encouraging people that if you're going to use your own money, you should pay yourself what other people are having to pay to use other people's money.
Right.
Just as if you borrowed it from an institution, you consider yourself your own institution, you should borrow it from yourself and pay yourself.
And that's extra. A broad statement. Well, what is everyone else paying? Well, they're paying different things. Yeah. Look at people's credit cards. Someone's paying 8%, someone's paying 12%, someone's paying 21 or 29%. Why? Because everything is different. The nice thing about being the winner of your own financial game and the participating wealth code, the perpetual wealth code, is that you get to decide. You get to decide what you're worth. Yeah. You get to put the value on yourself. Your own money, you get to value that. You don't have to wait for someone else to put that up there. You get to decide. You get to determine what it is. And doing that allows you to become wealthier.
Tom, I like how you put that. You don't have to wait on somebody else. You don't have to wait around. You can take action now get the results that you want. You don't have to wait around.
No. Right. And, people always are talking, I wish I knew about this so many years ago. Well, you'll never gain back what you've lost. Mm-hmm. And the longer you moan and groan about, I wish I could have known this 25, 10, 15 years ago, the more you're losing. Right. Okay? And so I can't help but think of this fellow that, not too long from the Midwest that we were talking with, and we were showing him how this was working. And he was real excited about it, him and his wife, and then all of a sudden they didn't contact us. And so I wrote him an email. I said, when do you want to stop losing money? And he got real angry. I'm not losing money. Well, yes, you are. You don't understand what's happening here. Yeah. Wasn't trying to offend him, but he's losing money every day.
Yeah. That you spoke of someone who, we're working with, and then we just don't hear from them. And that really frustrates me because a lot of times when they do finally contact us back, we'll find that they had something they were concerned about, some little issue that they thought, if I can't do it the way we talked about at that time, I can't do it at all. Or maybe they have a very simple something that seems like a big problem to them, but we have a very simple way to help solve that. But I don't know about it because they just quit talking about it. It's kind of like they're almost fearful of it and or maybe embarrassed or ashamed. And, I never try to put people down or anything. I just want to help them find a solution to their situation. And if
everyone's unique. We're all different. Yeah. And we got to help people go through those stages. And people want us to give them a box formula, plug it in, and then they want to walk away and leave it. And that's not the way wealth works.
Right.
I love how Rabbi Daniel Lapin talks about money. Money is really an extension of you spiritually. It's a representation of how you've been able to serve other people. Mm-hmm. So when you think about money in that way, it helps break the connection between the numbers. Yes, numbers represent the money, but when we can break that connection, recognize it as a spiritual extension, now it takes on a new dimension.
That is so powerful because, Michelle, when you're cooking and you measure out a cup of flour and put it in there, the cup doesn't tell you what you just measured.
No.
If you measure, it could have been a cup of sugar, it could have been a cup of oil, it could have been a cup of water. And people get so focused on what we're measuring it by. Money is just a measurement of how we unitize or be able to put this into a logical way to think about it. Mm-hmm. But it's not the substance.
Yes. That's so true.
And so, and if we value sugar more than flour, or oil more, then that's
it depends on the recipe.
Yeah, exactly. It does. Exactly. And that depends on what people want out of life.
That's right.
Yes.
What they value.
Right. Yes.
It's
that's
all.
Right.
So,
and sometimes you don't want to make as much as the recipe calls for. Sometimes you need to adjust all your measurements down. Or sometimes you're feeding a crowd and you need to adjust all of them up. So that's what we're here to help do.
Right. And people come, they want, like you were saying earlier, a boxed in solution for what they can do. It's like saying, I want a certain amount of flour at the end of this time, but if they don't know what they're making with the flour, are they making bread or are they making a cake? It's not going to help them really in the long run.
It is.
That's right.
It's really,
But we do sometimes look at box examples because we got to start somewhere when we're talking. And then from there, we'll make adjustments, find out what we're cooking, how much we're cooking, and then we can end up with a great product.
Yes, and it's possible to do that because of money's relationship with numbers, because $1 is just the same pretty much as another dollar as when it's being saved. And it gives you the seed money to spring from there and do whatever you're wanting to do.
Yeah, $1 absolutely equals another dollar if we're talking about the same time frame.
Same time
But when we add time to that,
it changes.
Just like that gold, that ounce of gold in Roman times it's not,
right.
It still buys the same value. And when, it's just really, it's really tough for a lot of people to think in analogies. And, just the apples and apple juice, people have a difficult time jumping from that. Well, how does that have anything to do with that money? Okay, but if you are investing in such and such a fund that is invested in, school debt, student loan debt, and is also tied into the municipal bonds and also tied into government subsidized debt, how do you know which one of those three made your investment go up or down? We don't. And, that's just the beginning of what's happening. And so that's why we're encouraging people to invest in something that's contractually guaranteed. It's really not an investment. It's an asset purchase.
Yeah.
So now we've got something concrete, something solid that we can build on. And it doesn't really matter where we build after that. But if we don't have a solid foundation, then, we just recently watched a huge rainstorm come through, flash flood come here through the Henderson, and it was amazing how it eroded everything out.
Yes.
We drove by some electrical boxes that were in the ground, and they're all exposed. You can see all the conduits coming into them because it washed out, 4 feet of dirt. Phew, it's gone. Well, what if that was your foundation financially? And here I am speaking in an analogy again. But, now it's gone. What happened to all those people on Monday that lost so much and jumped out of the market and now where are they?
You mentioned analogies and how it can be hard to follow. And I just had this thought, they can be easy to follow or they can be hard to follow.
Yeah.
And, you have to make that choice. Jesus came speaking in parables because the people who would hear wouldn't hear the message. The people that were ready for the message and ready to hear it would make the connections.
Yeah, and
it becomes a very powerful way to teach. It just depends on who's ready for the message.
Well, and another thing I was thinking when you said it, sometimes it's hard for people to understand analogies, is if that's you should probably just relax.
Yes.
Just relax. Just carefully think about that analogy and just relax about things, because little kids, they get analogies, and back in kindergarten they're so excited to learn and everything's exciting. Just relax. Don't worry about what you don't know. Just
that
relax
is so
and
true,
think.
Michelle, because yesterday I was talking to a prospect and he was real interested in this. He kept asking me questions all along, and I'm open to questions. I like questions, but I finally just said, let's just slow down a little bit. I would just like you to listen to this story that I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. And when we're all done, if you haven't got your questions answered, then let me know. And he was quiet for a little bit. I was able to get through the story, the process. And he said, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But because he was interrupting with his questions at every point that I was trying to show,
breaks the analogy.
He was so close to the trees he could not see the forest.
Yeah, and he was just being bombarded by those questions, but he really needed to just relax and get the overview, and then it put all those other questions into perspective.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what I really like about the videos that you just cut, Michelle, because those people are saying, we got the big picture when we talked to Tom, But now we can go back and watch Michele and get the specifics on each step of the way. And it makes so much sense.
You know, and we had to put those videos in the members part of our website. So those are just for clients because it's awesome stuff. But we can't have it on the main website because of regulations in the industry. They don't want us to use that awesome stuff as part of sales technique. That it has to come later. So
that's part of service.
yeah, but it's
and
really
we got awesome service. And that's what everyone keeps telling us.
That's right. So for those of you who are our clients, you can access those videos if you go on to the members pages of our website. You'll log in with your username and password, and then on that front page there's a link right under the welcome letter where you can click and get right to those videos. And I think there's 7 of them on there right now as we speak. And you're thinking about adding a few more,
definitely, right? Yeah, and every time I think of another title, other titles emerge. So,
well, Michele, thanks for being with us today. It's been fun, and I hate to cut this off because it's been a great conversation, but we've got someone waiting for me to talk to here in just about half a minute. So, John, we'll be back next time on Wealth Talks, where we talk about
solutions, money, and other things that create wealth in your life.
That's right. So, thank you, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Have a great week.